welcome everybody to today's session.
Hello everyone, I'm Desi and this is Chris and this is the DUO-LOGUE.
It's the first official episode and it's a conversation on conversation. We were talking about this the other day because most of these conversations are going to be prompted by other conversations, of course. And we're going to be doing these on Tuesdays and Fridays every week. They may not be put up exactly on those days, but we're going to do them regularly every Tuesday and Friday. And hopefully we're going to have some better equipment because I don't have a proper microphone and everything gets it's a bit scatty and we haven't got all the branding and everything. So
bells and whistles.
yeah, so it's going to improve as we go. Stick with us, all right? Stick with us. Subscribe. It's going to come good. You're not going to be disappointed. This conversation was prompted by a conversation because Desi said, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Well, I don't know what I can contribute. And I said, at this juncture in the world, we're in a real mess at the moment. I mean, we're in a real mess because go back to the early 2000s, go back to last century. It might sound like a long time ago, but we didn't think anything of having conversations. It was the most natural thing to do. People just met each other and had conversations. but now it's seemingly quite difficult. And there's been a couple of stages in this, but the first stage, when I began to notice it, was when COVID was prevalent around 2000. So what happened was that anybody that used to be running meetings or used to be meeting on a regular basis suddenly had to stop. And that put a huge problem in the works of people who used to meet up regularly and have conversations. And, Link for Growth as an organisation, which I was involved in, was specifically meeting up every week and having conversations. And of course, now you could meet up. So we were all thrown into disarray and we had to start seeking ways that we could continue this process of meeting up without meeting up and having conversations. And this is when electronic communication suddenly went through a massive trajectory and boom. And online conferencing took to the streets, as it were, without taking to the streets. It became massive. Suddenly, people who never even thought about that, they never even understood what the word meant, or two words, but they didn't understand what it meant. Now, suddenly, they were like, oh, have you been on to such and such? Or have you been on to such and such? Because they've got this video conferencing thing. And before you know it, everybody became proficient in video conferencing. And it changed the landscape to one of where, well, we didn't have to meet anymore. And so what happened almost overnight was that we went from people who thought nothing of meeting each other now were saying, oh, I've got this alternative where I can meet someone online and you can have an online meeting. People in business have been doing this for a while. But the thing is, it had never become mainstream. When Windows took computers mainstream and suddenly, you were the only person in the street who had a computer and then everybody had one because suddenly it became really mainstream. And now suddenly online conferencing went from rarity to normality. Almost you had to be doing it. They don't have to be nice even. They don't have to be friendly because they're hiding behind a computer screen. And you might never meet that person actually in reality. So the airs and graces that normally went with meeting someone in public were dispensed with or could be dispensed with. And suddenly we're left with a different landscape entirely. And this is kind of what's really happened. The conversations have become incredibly different because before you used to meet someone, you say, hi, how you doing? And, you used to meet people in that informal public space. Well, now you've been thrust into a space via your computer screen. And it's very, very different. What was your experience, Desi?
The online meetings, before they exploded to become universally used by everyone, especially in our platform called Zoom, which everybody knows about. I was using it for online education for my essential oils business. Whenever I invited people to an online class like that, everybody in the UK or in Europe was a bit confused about it. What's this about? What's this thing called Zoom? I've never used it before. I don't know what it is. And then when COVID happened and the children were out of school, everybody went online. Zoom went through the roof with the users that they had, and it even crashed. So from people telling me I don't know how to use this to everybody now being competent, and there was this quote, "You're on mute, unmute yourself."
Can you hear
That
me?
that
Can
was.
you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? But I don't think it was that people were not very friendly with each other. I think it was more to do with social media, where people were hiding behind a profile and a picture. This is where conversations went a little bit strange, where everybody who didn't have a bit of a common sense thought that they could be hiding behind a picture and going around and insulting everybody else who didn't share their opinion. It wasn't so much in the real world where people were meeting online, like we are talking now here through a platform called StreamYard, and it seems like a normal civil way of communicating, and we're talking like normal. But when people were sharing their opinion on, say, Facebook, the comments underneath by some people were like
Well,
ridiculously
I think,
rude.
yeah, I mean, I
And so,
think
so it's a different type of conversations we're talking. I'm taking you to Facebook now instead of Zoom or live
well,
meetings.
I'm also aware of having discussions about topics which not everybody agrees with. If you're running a webinar, then everybody on the webinar is presumably there to learn something or find out something,
Yeah,
and they're all there for a common purpose. But actually, when you're having meetings like we used to have with Infogrowth, there were people from different sectors. You had people there running a business, you had people there from the local community, you had people there who were objectionable, and sometimes were just having different opinions to raise people's raise people's blood
no,
temperature. They were there to basically say, "What about this? Then you haven't considered this, or what about what about that?" The problem is that we've now got, actually, as a society, we're being divided constantly. And what's happening is that the places that these people meet up, doesn't matter whether it be social media or whether it be online in these meetings, you can't police every time this thing, because that's censorship. Now fallen foul of the censorship things. Everybody was censoring, and now Trump's come in. Elon Musk has got Twitter. Let's get rid of this blooming censorship because it's worse than it is. And to be honest, it's worse trying to censor things than it is to leave them uncensored and just allow people to either reject those people by virtue of the fact that people don't like what they're talking about, or rather than just have some authority that says, no, you can't say that, because that is basically just censorship and restricted speech, not allowing people to say what they feel. Because actually, people have to be able to say what they feel. It may not be popular, but it's a comment, it's a view, it's an angle that, and if you don't allow people to voice their opinions, well, you're in trouble. And kind of that's where we've got with this is we're in trouble, because now people don't know what to do. Before we knew what we were doing because there wasn't any online. Now we've got online, but it's been policed, and all this propaganda has been initiated. I mean, propaganda in all sorts of ways. It's like people might say, "Oh no, you're a conspiracy theorist." Well, conspiracy theory is also works for the people that are fighting conspiracy theory, because they're trying to tell everybody, "No, you can't believe that because it's a conspiracy theory." And the people who are promoting conspiracy theories say, "Well, no, it's not really a conspiracy theory; it's a conspiracy fact." Right? So nobody knows what the hell's going on really. It's because all the conspiracies are being debunked, and now all the reality, as people think, is being debunked. So everything's being debunked. Well, hang on. What am I supposed to believe anymore? And the answer is you're supposed to believe what you do your research on and find out for yourself. And then people go, "Ah, no, you just don't want to answer the question." No, actually, I can't answer the question because what you believe, you believe. It's not. It's not what I've convinced you to believe, is it? Well, how can that be true? You've got to have done your own homework, and to be honest, because that's hard work, it's difficult. People don't like to do it, or they say, "I don't know where to look."
Even though we don't like this to be done to us, we tend to do it all the time. Well, like, I don't want to be told what to believe yet. I keep telling people that they should be believing this and that because, obviously there are these evidence.
There's this desire to be right, isn't there?
There's this desire to teach you because I know and you don't. And right, I know better because I've done a lot of research, and this is my ego talking here. That yeah, I catch myself trying to tell people what to do and what to believe more often than, well, at least I'm aware of it now. When I was in my teacher job, the authority figure in the classroom, you do as the teacher says. The teacher teaches you how to read and how to write, and this is how you do it. It's still taking some effort on my part, on my behalf, to catch myself out when I'm preaching my ideas to others and suggesting what they should do or what they shouldn't do. And in a way, this breaks the conversations down because nobody likes to be told what to do, especially if they're an adult.
Classic was when the vaccinations came to a crucial point because the world is littered with families who've been broken up because they can't get to a consensus of opinion about these things. When I was having conversation with somebody who was saying, they're complete idiots because they believe in this vaccine, they believe in this vaccine. And then I'm saying, well, they think you're a complete idiot because you don't believe in it. You both think that the other is an idiot when actually neither is an idiot. They just don't feel they've availed themselves of the facts which concretely define the state of play, and they're never going to get to a consensus. It was the same with the Brexit thing in England. We talked about this last time. It was the same. These divisive things are massive. And now we're coming into a financial thing with Trump and the whole markets. And again, it's divisive. It's completely divisive. Russia, Ukraine, China, Russia, all of these are so divisive. And now, because people can get information, what they do is they avail themselves of the information which supports the narrative they believe. Doesn't mean it's the truth. It means it justifies them being vehement and belligerent and forceful. But not only that, fearful to enter into a conversation for
Mm.
fear of the conversation going into a free for all.
For fear of not being able to withstand
Yeah,
the
and you're
criticism on the other side.
so you
Mm.
become fearful of potential for someone to get angry with you, fearful not to be able to defend yourself, fearful of being bullied, fearful of
Mm.
being thought of as an idiot, and the list goes on. It goes on and on and on. And these are conversation stoppers. They're not starters, they're stoppers. It's like I'd rather not get into a conversation because I don't know how it's gonna go. And I can learn
Mm.
what I need to learn online without any problem. And now to have a conversation is to enter into a potential fearful environment. It's not to be safe. So now I can't be safe in a conversation. And being unsafe is a place people don't want to go.
The subconscious
It's to be
mind is
safe.
primary, is to keep you safe, and if something is ringing alarm bells, you're never gonna do it. It will keep you out of it.
Yeah, we've now got into a situation where to have conversations is basically to enter into a space where you feel you might be unsafe. And the vast majority of people are the type of people that would err on the side of caution because otherwise they risk a potential relationship. I mean, I've got a ton of people on Facebook, a ton of people everywhere who basically have a different opinion to me. But I can't even broach that subject because if I do, it's the end of the conversation. It's the end of the relationship. I will be stuck in the toilet, and that'll be the end of it. In my situation with those people, I have to retain a high level of flexibility and tolerate maybe the person talking and going on and on and on with an opinion which I don't share. And then, by association, other people might assume that, hang on a minute, you're a traitor because you now agree with this person. No, I'm not a traitor because there's no such thing in this situation. It's just opinions. But I haven't jumped horse or changed my opinion. I'm just associating with someone who has a different opinion to me. But they may not be tolerant of that. So I get kicked out from there too. Whoa, this is becoming incredibly complicated. And it's mind blowing, isn't it? How it's all deteriorated.
It sounds like the playground and the children. They were
No,
falling
because,
out and reconnecting as friends for something
yeah, I'll
that
be your best
somebody
friend,
said.
but maybe AI will look at us and say, what on earth are these people doing?
It's as if we haven't grown up at all. Still the same little kids inside, stunted
The
in their
thing
growth
is,
because somebody doesn't believe what we believe, and so that means we are not friends.
the thing is that because there is so much information now, we can avail ourselves of that information. We can make ourselves aware. But the problem is that we have to take responsibility for that information and of being aware and marshal it accordingly. Before, in the old days, you were told something and you just believed it. It doesn't matter if it was true or not, you believed it because the BBC told you. So you had to believe it because, oh, the BBC said so. But now, because there are so many different sources of information and the BBC has been discredited in a number of cases, too many to mention, we're now not sure anymore about what's true. And consequently, the cat's been let out of the bag. It's been let out of the bag big time. Look at the state of the country. There's people saying things that are basically it's inciting civil war, and we're heading down that way. And it's horrible to say. Without control in place, you're letting the regular folk run the farm. They can't do it. They can't do it. And now we're getting into the real trouble of the world because human beings aren't yet qualified or able to take that responsibility. They think they are.
Mm.
Conversations, though, it sounds like a easy subject, and we'd only be talking about it for 2 or 3 minutes. But it's not, is it? It affects everything, and society is going through a period of time which is likely to be quite difficult, more so for some people than others. We're disappearing off to Hungary, which has got a whole different set of issues, and Europe, which has got a whole different set of issues. And you could say, well, is that a good decision? No, it's not. It's not a good or bad decision. It's a decision, and we'll make best of it.
If we go back to conversations, what is the purpose of conversations? To connect people, share knowledge, share experience from the older generation to the younger generation. So experience is passed on, traditions are passed on if they work, and if they don't work, still they're passed on. That's why we have this ability to speak, to pass on information and to pass on knowledge and learning and experience. And at the moment, this main basic function of conversations has been taken away. You can only say what the other person knows already and believes, and if you share something different, you run the risk of being labeled, judged, etc. So the whole function of the reason why we have a conversation ability is gone.
What does AI know? In the main, AI knows anything that's gone before. It knows things that have gone before. It knows timelines and everything else. All right, it knows all those things. But it's an echo chamber because it's only what's gone before. So what happens if the information doesn't fit into the model of the one that the person has created that world? Well, it's omitted from the box. And if it's not omitted from the box, it isn't shared on, it doesn't become part of the conversation, and it gets lost. So is this now selective losing of information based on the collection of the total information and then the selective disappropriation of the stuff that doesn't fit anymore? maybe that's one for a different day.
We would like to hear what your thoughts are, and just write them in the comments underneath
Yeah.
and subscribe
Subscribe,
for more.
because I'm sure you'll agree, actually, conversations is a really difficult conversation. And there'll be loads more interesting topics, stuff that we come up every day. I mean, I went to the doctor's today. There's another conversation.
Till
Right,
next time, bye.
until next time. Bye.